everyone. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Got the AirPod game on, so hopefully it's working okay. All right, so this is a fun one. I'm really excited to actually jump on live to tell this story again. Last time I pre-recorded a video about how we won the lottery, and I think being like further removed from it now, I actually have like a really different perspective than I used to on why that money kind of came into our lives and everything. So I'm excited. So, and I also wanted to start off, if anyone's been looking into the Luxa Money Mastery course. So it starts June 30th. It's going to be 8 weeks long, and basically it's it's literally a how-to on doing your own business bookkeeping, business finances, and all about specifically online businesses too. So online coaches, entrepreneurs, influencers. This is totally for you if you don't already have a bookkeeping system to really just get a system started. So I have a special discount actually for the members of the Luxa Money Babes Facebook group. It's a little over $200 off the course, and I'm extending that to you guys until Tuesday. So if you're in the Luxa Money Babes group, which I know everyone watching live is, but I'm going to share this video probably in a couple different places. So if you wanted to join the group, then I can DM you the link for $200 off. So, and that's a really great deal because it's definitely the lowest price point I have to be able to have access to me one-on-one, which it is in a group environment, but there's definitely going to be opportunities for Q&A. We're going to do some live calls. And then all of the pre-recorded content is literally from when I open up QuickBooks and how I do business accounting for my clients. And I'm actually using a live bank account, so you'll be able to see how purchases look, what the process is, just really like literally A to Z, starting a bookkeeping system for your business and how to read financial statements. So it's gonna be awesome. I'm excited about it. Let's see. When you jump on, please comment, or if you're watching the replay, make sure you let me know. All right. So let's pull a card for this, shall we? Because I'm really excited to talk about this. Okay, and the card is Pillar of Lights. You are the oracle. Your vibration is rising. That's beautiful. I don't actually get this one too often. I use this deck. I know a lot of people have this one, Rebecca Campbell's deck, Work Your Light. It's been my jam for about 10 months now, maybe a little bit less, like 9 months, but I just love working with cards in this capacity, and these just feel super next level for me. Hi, Camilla. Thanks for jumping on live. So, Pillar of Lights. Imagine yourself as a pillar of light connecting with the light of the heavens above with the earth. Rainbow Bridge. Linking the higher realms of the cosmos. Do not look for guidance outside, for you hold all the wisdom of the entire universe in the portal of your heart, in every cell of your body. Do not see the angels as guides above you, for without you they have no way of communicating. You are the oracle, you are the rainbow bridge, you are the pillar of light. That's awesome. So, that's great. I love that. I feel like I jumped timelines a couple days ago. I came back from Montana, and it's like I felt like I wasn't grounded yet. Like I felt like I was still up in the air. I feel like everything was different when we came back. Like something had just shifted, and I couldn't explain it. Everything just felt different. I figured I jumped timelines, so that's probably what happened. So Let me get into it. So I wanted to talk about the lottery story because in the context of money management, I feel like those experiences that Isaac and I have like taught me more than anything. And it's also just given me like a really well-rounded like introspection into how to manage your finances as a business owner. And I think having that experience, like I know now in retrospect, like having that experience, we were meant to experience that kind of money and bring it in that way to, well, for a lot of different reasons, but to provide me with the experience to be able to share on to others. Like I know that was a major part of it. And the lottery and manifesting money in unusual ways is a really big part of my life, and something that a lot of you have really come into my space because of that. Most people that online, that's how they've known me for a really long time, and it's cyclical, and I feel like now it's starting to change. Maybe I'm known for other things now, but there was definitely a point in time where I was just getting so many DMs about it. It was pretty prevalent, and so I recorded a video so that anytime someone would ask me about it, I would just link them to the video where I basically explained like A to Z all about that lottery experience and basically how we manifested $100,000 on my birthday, which was really cool too. So this is really like an updated, like next level awareness of what that experience meant to us. So I'll just go ahead and get started. If anyone is unfamiliar with the story, Isaac and I both manifested $100,000. He won it on a scratch ticket on my birthday. And it's really awesome because we had so much momentum towards $100,000 already. I had been meditating on $98,475. It was a number that was literally just given to me, and it was the perfect amount of money, and I focused on that number for 5 months maybe, before he actually won that amount. A really cool part about this, and the reason I know that it was this specific amount that I was manifesting and how magical it came into our lives, is because statistically, he was actually more likely to win a larger prize. So based on the prizes that were available for that particular scratch ticket, it was like statistically more likely that he would have won. I think it was like $1.5 million or $1.25 million instead of the 100,000. So, which is kind of like, for some people that would be like, oh my God, like I'm such a loser, I didn't win the 1.5 million, or like you'd feel bad about it. But I know that was our calling and our destiny at that particular moment, is to attract $100,000 into our experience. And it was perfect. I think that there's a lot of reasons that ended up happening, and kind of my new like refreshed perspective on why that happened. So a little bit of background of when that happened. It was a really like rough time for us financially. We were basically obviously paycheck to paycheck kind of situation. I was self-employed and had left my job. It had been about 9 months since I had left my job. So we were really just experiencing a lot of like financial difficulty at that time. Like we were broke as fuck basically. And I had a month left on my client's contract, and it was for a short-term project. So the project was ending. I didn't know where money was going to come from after the end of June. So it was June, really it was June 10th when he won, but I knew my client contract was going to end June 30th, and I wasn't going to have anything else basically to last me. Actually, no, I take that back. My client contract had ended May 30th, and I had enough money. I had already saved up from that client that I had enough money to last me until June 30th. So it was quite the wild ride, and I'll just get right into, I guess, the beginning of it. So you already know that I was focusing on that number. I was focusing on $98,475. And I was listening to Paul Santisi like nonstop at the time, all about his money mindset. He's a really cool, I guess he's like a YouTube guy or something like that, but he does a money mindset meditation. And it's all about money. It's basically money affirmations playing for a couple hours. So I would go hiking, and I would drop Isaac off from work to work at, because I think we only had one car at the time. I would drop him off at like 6 in the morning, and I would get back around 7 back to our place, and I would go hiking, and I would just be walking in the mountains by our house, like listening to the money mindset affirmations over and over, and I would focus on $98,475. And this was at a point where I didn't have, a couple $100s to, pay down my credit cards. I mean, I didn't have a lot of expenses for me were going on credit cards at that time. I had to get a lot of dental work done that year and had to put, $3,000 of dental work on credit cards. Like, it was to the point where if anything over like a couple $100 I had to purchase, it had to go on a credit card, because I wasn't having the consistent cash flow. Like, we had rent, we had other bills to pay, I had to pay my car payment. We weren't in a position of excess, that's for sure. We were cutting back, like living broke as fuck, which is fine. It was okay. It was stressful for me, though. In retrospect, I probably created so much of that environment for myself by being so stressed out. I was probably holding a lot of money outside of my experience. I was holding a lot outside of my experience. I held a client outside of my experience for 3 months after I started my business, where it was, 3 months I had waited to basically get a client, and it was so easy once it happened. And I realized that my stress, my constant stress about money, my constant depression towards money, my anxiety about money, like just all that bundled up every single day. You wake up and then you feel that, and you never really feel that relaxation. You're constantly thinking about money and how there's a lack of it. That probably held me in that situation a lot longer. We probably wouldn't have been in that situation as long if I would have changed my attitude earlier on. But anyways, I was focusing on that number. And then that was really the point where something flipped for me in about February after I had got my first client. Something flipped for me. The client to me was such a moment of like a sign to me, like, okay, this is working. Like this is gonna work. This is gonna work. It was my first like indicator, like, holy fuck, like this actually worked. My manifestation actually came too. And prior to that, I had smaller, manifestation type experiences, like finding a really cool place to live for really cheap. A bunch of like little things like manifesting, specific situations or things into our life, but I had never had that faith tested as much as I did in that 3-month time frame after I started my business, but before I got my first client. That was the ultimate faith test for me. So when it finally paid off, it was like, okay, this is working. You know what I mean? This is my sign. This is my like hold out for more kind of feeling. And so May comes, and I have enough money to last me through the end of June, right? And it was the same with Isaac too. It was barely enough. Like, he was working at the time, but it wasn't going to be the type of situation where we were even going to be able to pay our rent for July, right? Like, we were like, something needs to happen in the next month. So after that, I remember distinctly, I was sitting in the car with my mom, and we were going to do something, and she asked me, like, what are you going to do? And I honestly said, I am just releasing it to the universe that by the end of June, this is going to work out just fine, and I'll have enough money to pay my bills for July. I was just completely like, I need to release it. There's nothing else I can do at this point except release it. If something doesn't happen by July, then I'll go ahead and go back to work, or I'll go ahead and get a job or whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, and then during that time frame, I had also hired my first coach. I had maxed my credit card, like, to the dollar, maxed it out. Like, I didn't have any more room on that credit card, right? And it had to fucking work, basically. So this was the complete release. Like, by June 1st, it was basically just like this whole energetic dump, like, oh, well, like, I am not going to focus on this anymore. Like, I just had to completely release it, that everything was going to be okay. I didn't have any other option. I mean, I could have spent that month freaking out, but I just didn't. I was tired of freaking out. I was tired of it, you know? I wanted to release that. So why do you believe you created that stressful situation? Honestly, I feel like that situation was brought to me so I could have the experience of manifesting a large amount of money. Like, I have always been, even when I was 18 years old, like, I have only had to ask my parents for money like 1 or 2 times before. Like, it was never, I was self-reliant basically, and working nearly full time since I was like 16 basically. So I had always had my own money. I have always had a very, ever since I moved out and everything, my financial situation has been very like even keel. Like, I've never had a ton of money, and I had never had, up until that point, I had never had like an excess and an abundance of money, but things always worked out. Like, I always had enough to pay my rent, pay my bills and everything. Like, whereas some people my age at that time, you know, being 18, 19, 20, some people my age had like, you know, had bad financial situations happen, like, you know, can't afford their car payment kind of situations and stuff like that. So, or, you know, even worse, I guess, just like, I saw a lot of, I was exposed to a lot of financial chaos, I think, when I was younger, that it kind of made me smart early on about money, and like, I see what not to do, right? So I'm not going to put myself in that situation. So while I never had like an excess or an abundance, I always had a very even keel situation. So this was really the first time in my adult life that I was experiencing a negative financial situation. I, you know, got a pretty good job right out of college, and, you know, made enough money. Everything was good, you know? So having that experience of a financial dip, right, or this contrast around money, sometimes you have to experience contrast in order to experience what the opposite of contrast would feel like, and to like actually refine what you want to manifest what you want. If you never experienced that contrast, like I had just kept myself kind of even keel, I would have never understood the magnitude of my manifestation of $100,000. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I'll have to say about why I created that stressful situation for myself. So then Isaac comes home one day, and I'll spare all the mushy details of whatever, but you know, he won $100,000 on my birthday, and that was like life altering for us. And it literally did change the trajectory of our lives. And I think the reason for that is because we were supposed to have that experience of manifesting that amount of money. Because where we had come from, you know, that wasn't the amount of money you just kind of had sitting around. Again, we were paycheck to paycheck, kind of towards that. We had taken some great vacations and stuff, but nothing that was like this next level. Like that, it felt like the next level that we were able to handle, you know what I mean? So what I wanted to talk about with this experience is what I learned from that, and then what I do different next time, because Isaac also went on, as I'm sure many of you are familiar, the next year to do the same thing, $100,000 on a scratch ticket. And then it wasn't as big of a deal, right? It really wasn't that big of a deal. We went out to a nice dinner. Nothing else changed. That first time, our whole lives changed. Isaac got a really good job. We moved to a different neighborhood. We took some awesome vacations. We were just living life different. Living life different in the sense that we got to experience the feeling of not needing to care about how much things cost, right? We didn't need to be as frugal as we had been. I remember even just small behaviors that we were able to release, like almost like pop little bubbles of like stupid small behaviors that we did. So for example, going to the grocery store for me, after I had got my like big girl job out of college, right? Like going to the grocery store, I was still like really cautious of how much things cost. Like I wouldn't buy like a $10 bottle of wine. Like I would buy like a $5 bottle of wine, you know what I mean? Or I wouldn't buy like the brand name canned whatever, right? I would buy like the knockoff or the store brand canned beans or whatever it was, you know. It was always like little things that I would get stressed out about. And I remember like about everything, like gas prices, like, oh, the gas is 5 cents cheaper over here, so I need to buy gas from here. Like so many of those little things that you don't really think about add up to like your general vibe around money. So it was really awesome when he won. I mean, we could go like, you know, we kind of went on a little shopping spree too. We went to the outlet malls over in Westgate over here in Phoenix, and I went to H&M, and I could just get what I wanted at H&M. Like I didn't have to like pay attention to the prices or if something was on the clearance rack or not. You know what I mean? Like I got to get new Nikes, and Isaac got a whole Nike outfit, and just, you know, we got what we wanted without looking at two different items and going, oh, I really want this one, but this one's cheaper. You know, those are little behaviors that you don't even realize like make up so much until like you pop all those little bubbles, and they just kind of go when it's not a problem anymore. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it was a really fun couple months. And then I was so directionless at the time. I was super new to like the online coaching space and everything like that. And I had my, you know, brick and mortar clients for my accounting business, but I really wasn't focused. Like I was just kind of like not really doing much, you know? And part of that is because I was just enjoying the lifestyle change that we had. So I ended up going back to work because I was just like, I had the opportunity to go back. They were hiring and blah, blah, blah. The story goes on, you know, I'm got a really cool job there, and I got to work with a really awesome boss for a long time, for a couple years. So it all ended up working out exactly how it should. What I would do different this time, right? Because it's interesting to me that $100,000 can come so easily, not really so easily, but it can come into our experience when I was just focusing on the number, but I didn't really have any purpose for money. So something I hear a lot, and I guess like the online or the manifestation type community, right, is you need to have a purpose for the money. You need to have an area where that money would go. We needed like $2,000 to pay our bills, but other than that, I really didn't have like a place for that money to go. So the premise is that when you create the place for the money to go, right, like you're giving a purpose to the money, so the money comes in for a purpose. That is not how this situation was whatsoever. This was more like, oh, cool, we can like pay our rent and pay our bills, but there was no purpose for the remaining, you know, however many thousands of dollars that was. Like, so that's what is always so interesting to me, is when it's taught to give a purpose to the money. I think at some point that can like help facilitate something if you're someone that is really practical and you're someone that needs to like plan things out. But I kind of have a spontaneous nature sometimes, or kind of like random or airy, airhead, whatever. So something sounds good to me and I just do it. It's not I need to really sit there and deliberate on the decision. You know what I mean? I make decisions really quickly based on how I feel. I don't really brood over decisions. So I would like to say that I believe that if you give a purpose to money, it'll come easier, but I really don't think that that's the case. I really actually completely disagree with that. I think that all you need to do is focus on the number. You literally need to focus on the number and picture having the number inside of your bank account, and picture taking money from your bank account and like transferring it to another bank account. Like for me, numbers like light up a part of my brain. Like I'm kind of like psychic with numbers. And so $98,475, like how close is that to like $100,000? Like I was $1,500 off, which when you factor in taxes, I was actually a lot less off, but I didn't specify taxes paid or not, which I definitely do now in my manifestations. I factor in, oh, hopefully this doesn't shut off the audio. I factor in taxes paid into my manifestations because you need to factor in 30% for taxes at that level. So, oh, thanks, Camilla. I'm glad it inspires you. So, and Isaac and I did a training on this. We actually did a live training that a couple people signed up for. I don't think it's anyone in any of my groups though, where he went into all of the mechanics behind how he picks his scratch tickets and stuff like that. So there's a whole process, like there's a whole other half of this, a whole other like probably like 65-70% of it that I wasn't a part of, right? Because it's a co-creative experience. And I've talked before about the co-creative experience of like bringing other people into your manifestations. And so it's really interesting that number came through my experience, right? And obviously to someone really close to me, like Isaac, you know, it wasn't like my cousin or something like that. But I also think it's interesting when you, it's interesting that the things we focus on, if we're seeing evidence of it outside of ourselves, if we're seeing it in other people's experiences, that actually means it's closer to our experience than further away from our experience. So like a traditional paradigm of like competition would say that when you see someone else that's in your circle that has something, that means there's less for you to have. But I think a better perspective, and I think one that's more accurate, is taking the perspective that when you are seeing other people have it, that's physical evidence that you can have it, right? So I think that is the most impactful part of our story, is that we have been able to provide the evidence to other people, because I would say 99% of the people we've talked to about it, whether that's like at a restaurant or however it ends up coming up at the gas station, because if you buy a lot of scratch tickets, you get to know the people at the gas station, right? They have never heard of someone that has won that amount. Like it's so rare unless you're in that circle. So I think that by us putting people in our circle that have won money or are lucky people, we were able to shift our reality to only see that as a lucky avenue. We weren't surrounding ourselves with gamblers that were broke or gamblers that were like, you know, had a negative mindset and were pessimistic about the outcomes. The people we watched on YouTube and stuff like that were having a hoot. Some people had won $1 million. Some people had won a lot more, a lot less, but they were like winners. You know what I mean? We normalized winning. And more specifically, Isaac normalized winning for his experience. Like when you normalize that, just like now when people talk about comparisonitis and, oh, don't pay attention to what everyone's doing on the internet, because it's not the reality. Like bullshit. Like that is, your reality is shaped by the people in your life. Like I don't want any, you know, people with a bum ass mindset like in my bubble. Like that's shaping my reality, right? I want smart people. I want successful people. I want funny people. Like that's the reality I want. So like when you shift like the people that you allow into your bubble, because everyone in your life shapes your worldview. You know, it shapes like literally how you view the world, whether that's real life or online. Because I don't know if you guys have checked out that little screen time shit on your phone where it tells you how much you've been on your phone. But I bet you everyone's spending a lot of time on their phone. That's part of your reality too. Even though it's an electronic device, we're still able to communicate with each other, and it's still part of your reality, right? For a lot of us, it's our business. The internet is literally our livelihood. So I forgot where I was going with that. Something about having people in your life shaping your reality. Anyways, were you two focusing in this number? I don't think Isaac was specifically focusing on 100,000. No, I don't. I think he has the mentality or used to and still does kind of keep the mentality that anything is a win. Like even if you break even, it's a win. Like even if you lose, it's a win, because at least you got to donate to the education fund that the gambling, you know, the Arizona State Lottery, they give to schools and stuff like that. So he didn't focus on a specific number. He viewed it as he had a completely positive mindset about it though. So A lot of people, when they gamble, they're clinging, even though it's even like $20 or something like that, which I will say you can tell a lot about someone's money mindset with how they gamble. Not all the time, but pretty often. So if you're clinging to that $20 and you're like, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. Like, ooh, and then you put it into a slot machine and it's gone in 2 minutes. Well, it's because you like had so much, it was so hard for you to let go of that $20. You know, you put it on the table and it's like, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. I'm going to lose this. Ping. You're going to lose it. And I do that at the casino. That's why I don't go to the casino too often. I only go to the casino if I am feeling it, or I only buy scratch tickets if I am feeling it, because I subconsciously do that. Like, I don't want to lose that money. Like, that's my money. I'm not trying to spend it somewhere. But when you have that, that's how you know you're not ready to, or, you know, manifesting money in that way is going to be really difficult. So what Isaac did, and probably why it comes through Isaac, is because he said he releases the result, right? He releases that from his energy field. It's okay. If I lose it, he's at peace with losing it. You know what I mean? He's at peace with losing that money. So you spend it, you released that energy of being attached to the outcome. So it can come back to you really easily. When you're releasing things like this, like you're releasing it like that, you have like this big of a hole for that money to come back into your life. But if you're releasing it like this, like, oh, yes, be gone money, right? Like, I'm releasing the result. It can come to you so much easier. So it's always interesting to me. So no, he wasn't focusing on a specific number when this was happening. Like, I think he would have been just as happy if it was $500. Like, he would have been just as happy. He won $1,000 a couple weeks ago. That was really exciting. I mean, it was pretty cool because it had been a little minute since he's gotten a little prize like that. So it was awesome. I think it doesn't matter to him as much. So, and I think that's why it worked out better, because I didn't have a method to bring in that much money. It would have literally had to fall out of the sky. I didn't know how it was going to happen, and I never thought it was going to be scratch tickets. I just knew that was the amount of money I wanted. Like, I wanted that amount of money. So it came through him because he probably had the least resistance to bringing in money, even if he wasn't focusing on the amount. If he would have focused on the amount, who knows, he probably would have had some resistance with that. So the both of us together would have, like, I got comfortable with the amount, he got comfortable with the how of it. You know what I mean? So you were talking about people you spend time on the internet with, about the energy of a winner. Yeah. And I think that it's really important to have people in your experience that are doing the things that you want to do. Because they're living the reality, right? So you can view it as the more people win, the less I have. But I just don't think that that's accurate. I think the closer you are in the vicinity to people that are winning, all the people around me, I mean, I get DMs pretty frequently, like, oh, I won $100, I won this, I won that. Like, I get messages from people all the time to, you know, about their wins, because they're in the energy of a winner, and not to say like, oh, we're this big time winners or anything. But most people, 99% of the people I've talked to, have never met someone that has won that kind of money on a scratch ticket before. So the updated feeling on how I feel about it now is that I know that money was supposed to come through our experience, because it was almost like a catapult into a different lifestyle. It was changing the trajectory of our lives to allow me to support people at that level now, to allow me to support people, you know, bringing in $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year now. Had I never been around that kind of money before, it would have been more difficult for me to support people, right? It would have been difficult for me to support people that brought in that amount of money when I had never seen or touched or held that amount of money before. So I know that there was a deeper purpose to that, and I know that there was more than one, like, multifaceted reason for that, especially because now, like, I'd take $100,000 now. Like, I am definitely aiming for higher, but now I have the purpose for $100,000, like, other than a couple thousand of it. Like, I have, like, that money could could be really impactful in my life right now, you know what I mean? I would have a more mature response on how to spend it. Because I've already experienced the feeling of an upgraded lifestyle because of that, I would be smarter about it. I would know the lifestyle changes that are dumb to me and don't really make an impact on my ultimate happiness, and I would know what's really important. So an example of that is like, I feel like what we've come out of this on the other side of manifesting all this money is like our food situation has really increased. Like we eat like really, I mean, anytime we eat meat, it's like the most organic, grass-fed, like nice ribeyes. Like we drink nice wine, we eat nice cheeses. Like that, the culinary experience that we've been able to have from having more money has been like amazing. And it's one of those things that for me, once I've upgraded something, like I can't go back on it. Like it's almost like a makeup for me or skincare or something. Like once you've experienced something so next level quality, you can't go back on it. So there's a reason that we needed to have that upgrade, right? Because it's one of those pulling, like we are pulling our experience up. We're pulling our new norm, what we're considering normal in our lives, up to a new experience. And to some people might have grown up eating that way. Some people might have grown up with the best food and you know, amazing cuts of meat and stuff like that. To us, that's new. You know, to us, that was an upgrade for us. And so that's a new standard that we've set. And once you set that boundary and that standard of this is how it is now, period, like that's how it's going to be because you've set that standard. So not having that experience would mean that I would need to incrementally eat like take steps up to get to that experience. And I might have been able to do that incrementally, but there's just something about like a large amount of money that like shifts things, you know what I mean? But what I'll say about what I would do different is I would have been more strategic with where that money is going. I think I have so many more budgeting skills now than I used to. I have so many, just a more mature outlook on what the magnitude of what that money could bring. Like we probably wouldn't have like balled out as hard. Like we probably wouldn't have drank, you know, the top shelf liquor every time we went out. We could have had well a couple times. You know what I mean? Like there's just some things that like we went a little too far, like bougie. Like we just went too far with it, and it doesn't provide us like that upgraded feeling like it does with the better food, right? It didn't provide us with anything more valuable than just spending more money. And I think that it's okay to be a little reckless. And I think you have to be a little reckless at whatever point in your life. You have to be reckless to be able to like learn a little bit from that and have a more mature outlook on it, whatever that level is. I think everyone needs to go through a little bit of that and pull themselves out of it and kind of snap back into a more mature outlook, basically. So what I would do different is I would have, after that, you know, the first time that money hit, I would have really gotten down to what I wanted my life to look like. Because that was such a blessing, I really could have used that to catapult into a more beautiful experience. I could have used that to catapult into something that was more like planned out, right? So after that summer, you know, we basically spent 3 months like just partying and taking vacations and just doing whatever. That's time that could have been spent me narrowing down what my purpose is over the next couple months. And that really would have been a good time to start coaching, right? Coaching for money and stuff like that, especially since I was working with a coach too. So it's just really funny how it ended up working out. But I know I have a deeper feeling that the reason it happened is because I was supposed to have kind of that reckless experience and almost and get to experience now what that money would have looked like, so I'm able to support more people like moving forward. I'm trying to think of what else is coming up about that. So now what we're manifesting basically, and right after that happened, I decided Now I want to manifest more. Because I had already had the experience, it would be really hard to bring in millions without first experiencing what hundreds of thousands felt like. You know what I mean? Just like maybe in right now where you're at in your business, maybe it's easy for you to feel what hundreds feels like or thousands, but it's hard for you to feel what tens of thousands would look like. You know what I mean? In whatever time frame you're talking about. So, and I think that that's why people glamorize the $10,000 months so much in the online coaching community, because 10,000 in 1 month is however much dollars that breaks down to per day is it's like a milestone, you know what I mean? And people glamorize that because maybe that's like where our collective shifting point is in like the new reality or the new boundary that we're setting for ourselves. So I don't think that there's any specific amount of number or specific amount of money or like a number that is completely unrealistic for anybody. I just think most of us need to take incremental steps instead of manifesting something like 40 million or something like that, or 1 million. I think incremental steps help you like expand your bubble out where you get used to the feeling of more money. Before you felt what it's felt like, either real or imagined, you don't have any idea, because I think most of the time when you're visualizing things, you're visualizing like a teeny tiny part of that experience. And I think really when you manifest the whole experience, or you're visualizing the whole experience, is when you get to manifest it. So a lot of people don't think about the negative repercussions of manifesting that amount of money. For example, like let's say it's $1 million. So a lot of people say, oh, $1 million, like $1 million is like, you know, just as talked about as $10,000, like in the gambling community. Like $1 million is like, you made it, like you did it, right? You're successful at this, because anything lower than that isn't really, I guess, is glamorized or whatever. So $1 million, $1 million, you have to think about like the negative repercussions of that. First of all, giving 30 or 300,000 of that to the government. So feel how that feels to get a check for $1 million and then turn right back around and pay 300,000 of that, depending on the state you live in and everything like that, paying 300,000 of that right back to the government. That is an equal part of the manifestation, right? That is just as much a part of the manifestation as getting that check for $1 million. Paying the taxes on it is it's the same experience, right? So when you're only focusing on the $1 million, but you haven't felt the full magnitude of what that would mean, it'll come slower. You won't be able to manifest it as fast, in my opinion, at least. It could be totally different for someone else. But I don't think so. I think that when you feel the full breadth of, and the full length and the full lifespan of the money that you're trying to manifest, you really like lock in that energy a lot faster. So same thing with people saying like, oh, I want to be fully booked out in clients. Like, until you've felt what that might feel like for you. I know for me, it was stress. I felt stress. My first $10,000 month was stress. And now it doesn't have to be, right? But if I would have really refined that manifestation of, this is what it feels like to have this amount of clients, and created that experience, the good and the bad from it, it could have probably came a lot faster into my experience, you know what I mean? And I could have tailored what I wanted that experience to look like even better had I worked through the mental picture of what I was automatically projecting as the negative aspect of it. Because when we focus on the positive, there still is like other aspects of it that we're choosing not to focus on, probably because we aren't like choosing to focus on them because they bring up a little bit of resistance and we were trying to avoid the resistance. But what you could do when you're visualizing and trying to manifest money, whether it's in your business or from an unusual source like gambling, you picture the full experience of it. Go tell your sister or your brother right now that you won $1 million. go do that and see what their reaction is, because you need to experience all of those things too. That's probably going to be an uncomfortable conversation for some people in some families. Go tell your friend or your grandparents that you won $1 million off of a lottery ticket. Go tell your grandparents that you're trying to make, you just quit your job and you're trying to make money coaching people online, right? And like, what is their reaction to that? Because go tell your grandparents you just made a $10,000 a month online. What is their reaction to that? Whatever it is, like trigger yourself so you can feel it, so then you can refine what that experience is actually going to look like. Because if you feel it, you feel that resistance and you feel that trigger, you can decide to manifest something different. Like you can manifest something different from that, because you're creating that reality that you've already imagined, and you're deciding like, no, that's not how it's going to work. And like you set that energetic boundary that that's not how it's going to be. But if you never imagined that experience to begin with, then you don't know to set that boundary, because you were only focusing on the good part of the manifestation. So I think that goes equally for business as it does for like just random money, right? Because in your business too, you might have thought like, oh, 100,000, I want to make 6 figures. I want to make $100,000. That's like the quintessential, like perfect experience for a coach. I'm a 6-figure coach, right? That's what everyone talks about. That's what everyone wants. Multiple 6-figure coach. Have you felt what that's going to feel like? Have you felt what your budget is going to look like at that point? Do you know how you're going to have support around that? A lot of my clients I run into, and this is actually a lot of what we talk about in module 1 of the Alexa Money Mastery course, is like almost like a reset, like a reframe for your money mentality. Because there's a difference between having a vibrational reality of your money, like, and then having like a physical, like your reality of your money, like on this physical plane, like in 3D on Earth in Phoenix, Arizona. Like there is a very big difference between the vibrational and like the real. And you can intermix those two like a lot, but sometimes it comes to the point where you are, at some point you're just you're in denial of your financial reality because you are living so much in the vibrational reality of your money. So really feel how $100,000 isn't just vibrational. Like feel how $100,000 a year is in reality. Like write out a budget and write out a mock example of you living that life. And it's funny because that's actually, I think week 7 in Alexa Money Mastery is we do one of my favorite manifesting exercises, which is P&L manifesting. So after you learn how to read a P&L or an income statement as it's sometimes called, you can make your own. And I love to do that for my business. That's how I like manifest things. I like write out what my income is, and then I actually write out like my mock expenses, like the things I would buy in that month from my business. So it's almost like I'm reading a real report, and it's making it that much real in my mind that this is like a real P&L that I'm reading, and but I'm like creating that, and so it's a really fun manifesting exercise. And I think that that's an important one to do for whatever your financial goals are. Even if it's something like paying off debt, like you need to physically be visualizing, like logging in to your bank account or your credit card company and paying off that debt. Like visualize transferring the money to pay off that debt. That is the reality of what that manifestation would be. It's not like you just wake up one day and your credit card's paid off. Like someone had to log in and pay it and link a bank account or whatever, you know what I mean? Those might be mundane details, but to me, it's just as important. It's like the foundation of the visualization to manifest more money is like the mundane activities that come along with it. So if I was really bringing in $50,000 a month, I would need to be looking at a P&L of $50,000 a month. So yeah. So now that we're manifesting more money into our experience and we're having a a time of up leveling and a time of like changing the reality and making that next shift into a new amount, that reality feels different than our current reality at our current financial level. You know what I mean? Just like we imagined before when we were broke as fuck trying to manifest $100,000. That felt like I had to prepare for that, and that felt like a shift. And I still didn't have it perfect. It's not like I had the whole manifestation visualized and it came exactly to fruition how I was planning. We learned a lot from it too. But there's so many controllables that you can control now to prepare yourself to actually physically receive that money, because vibrationally you already know that you're ready to receive it. So you need to prepare yourself in your physical environment for that next level of money. And that might be getting a bank account. Like that might be simple behaviors where you're like creating actual space in your real life for that money to come in. And that might be something like, I think that's actually the premise for why a lot of money coaches teach to like get rid of all your old shit. Because it doesn't really make any sense when you really think about it. Like, oh yeah, throw away all your old shit. But really, if you had $1 million, or you had $1 million business that was generating $1 million every year, would you have that like old, scraggly, like whatever? Like, would you have that old towel that's like ripped to shreds? Like, would you shower with that towel if you were a millionaire? Would you put on, I just shouldn't even say this, but I just have this pair of underwear that's so comfortable, but it has like so many little holes in it. And it's like, or like my favorite shirt ever that's like starting to get like holes in it everywhere. It probably has 20 holes in it. Like, would I be wearing that if I was a millionaire? Like, probably not, you know? So I think that's really the foundation of those type of manifestation exercises. Like, a lot of people's courses and stuff teach you to like get rid of all your old shit. And I think that that's the premise of it, is because you're starting to embody the energy of it. Like, you're physically preparing for that money to come into your experience. You're physically preparing for it. So when you are doing things that you wouldn't be doing as a millionaire, like you're not physically preparing for it. And not to say that that's like driving things away, because obviously there is an aspect of reality to this, right? Like, you're a vibrational millionaire, but you're probably not a physical millionaire. And so there's only so much like overlap you can do, but you can get as close as you can without physically having that money in your bank account. Like, you can get rid of that old towel. You can get rid of it. It's okay. And it might be like that little tiny bridge to bridge you over when you feel like abundant as fuck. When you feel rich as fuck, like throwing that towel away, or whatever it is. When you feel rich as fuck, buying like a $30 bottle of wine instead of a $5 bottle of wine, like that's it right there. Like, those are the little behaviors. Like, that's the financial reality. And that's going to be the bulk of what changes in your life, is those little tiny things. We always think about having a lot more money as meaning like these huge changes in our lives. Like, I'm going to drive a Mercedes. I'm going to have a house. I'm going to have a beach house. I'm going to have a Gucci bag. I'm going to have whatever. Like, we think of these big things with a lot of magnitude. But really, like, your little daily things, like the daily shit that you do, is the bulk of what's changing. Like, how many Gucci bags are you gonna buy? Like 2? Or how many Chanel bags are you gonna buy? 2, maybe 3? That's like a collective like hour of your life, 2 hours of your life, maybe, that you're like actually making that purchase. So really, if you want to like manifest something quicker, like, you need to focus on like what the 90% of what you would be doing as like a millionaire, or as that person with a new level of money would act, which is a lot of mundane shit. We do a lot of mundane shit. So that I think is the next step really for me, is manifesting a larger amount of money means like, now it's time for another upgrade, right? Like, now it's time to do things differently, act differently, show up differently, and budget differently, because I've already learned from having that money before, right? Budgeting differently. I'm not going to be reckless this time around. Like, I'm probably not going to drink Patron every time, right? Like, little things like that, like more frugality with it. So going, like, finding out where on the spectrum you are, and like really getting comfortable with that, is also part of the manifestation of more money. So above anything else, that's what I've learned from this, like awareness, being separated from winning or separated from the lottery for a couple year and a half now, 2 years, year and a half, is refining like what that experience meant for me, and like the facilitation of like that learning time, you know what I mean? Like giving myself time to learn and integrate that before jumping into the next reality. Like you have to prepare yourself physically for it. So that's my story of winning the lottery. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you're watching the replay, make sure you comment and let me know, and then also DM me if you want the coupon code for $200 off. It's a special link until Tuesday for the Luxa Money Mastery course, and we start June 30th. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.